Oh, hey there. Well, I'm glad you stopped by the shop here. I'm sure you expected to see something exciting happening. Not really. But, well, okay, that's not entirely true. That's, you know, I mean, what's exciting? You know, one man's exciting is another man's boring. I'm sure that's a saying, you know. Might even be a song, I don't know. But this week, I'm going to work on Dusty. What do you think about that? I just decided I'm going to take some time and work on Dusty. Now, I'm not promising progress. I am promising lists and also rearranging, because I can't work on them right here. It's too close to my office work area. It's too close to my reading, drinking area. It's too close to this Bronco here that is covered by probably something flammable. Well, I'm worried about flammable because welding, yeah, you're about to see an amateur welder do some more welding. And list making, and just kind of talking. You know, we've talked a little bit about Dusty, but not a lot. And he is one of my long-term personal projects that I was really hoping to make a bunch of progress on this winter. And we'll see, you know how it goes, but if you're not doing it, it's not getting done. Talking about it's not doing it, you know. Thinking about it's not doing it. Making lists about it isn't really doing it, though it kind of is starting to do it. Doing it's doing it. So we're going to, I'm gonna slide this truck probably over there somewhere, and I really need to slide Mr. F over here where this is, and yeah, I gotta make a plan. And once I get everything moved around, I'll bring you in and kind of show you the first couple things that I'm thinking about doing, and I'll actually even show you what I've done already. Yeah, so I'm glad to see you've got your coffee. That's important. I already had mine. You're kind of late this morning coming in. Just saying, I'm sure you had to take the kids to school or brush your teeth, or maybe you had an extra long stop in the bathroom. None of my business, not judging. So, but I'm glad you're here, and let's, yeah, grab a fender. Let's try to scooch this thing around a little bit. Well, thanks for your help, moving Dusty over here. Appreciate that. Couldn't have done it by myself, I'll tell you that. Lifting the fender off was probably the hardest thing, but many hands make light work, so they say. Okay, what you're seeing here is an indecisive person. Okay, let me just tell you, I have had this truck for 2 years. I love it. I love it so much that I pulled the engine and transmission and drive shaft, and I spent quite a bit of time boxing the frame rails. So these were just C-channels, but 90 years old, I felt like, especially if I'm going to put more horsepower than 56 horsepower through this chassis, I should box it. So I did. My neighbor lent me his plasma cutter, and I cut out, and I bought some metal from him, and I cut out these pieces and welded them in. So that was the first time I had ever done anything like that. I'm not a fabricator, but I love fabrication, and I'm not a welder, but I love welding, or at least being able to weld. So many things you can do if you can just do it, and also not have to hire people and all of that kind of thing. So some things I would do different in my welding and all of that. But this is kind of a learning process for me, and I think it turned out. I did the up to that cross member there, and then all the way back to the, I didn't do, this is what it looked like originally. You can see kind of how thin walled it is, but I did do past this cross member. You can hopefully there's enough light you can see it. So I took the exhaust off. I've got the parts up here. I've got a few extra rims. I've got the steering wheel and column and steering box. I've got the old seats. I've got the gas tank, some shielding, the drive shaft, this really sweet heater. It's a heater core with a fan attached to it. Super cool. I kind of want to use that if it doesn't leak. I don't know. It's neat. Radiator, just random parts. So my goal here from the beginning was not to change anything on the outside. So here's a picture of what it looks like all together. It had the old engine in it. I just bought wheels and tires. My excuse was I needed it to roll around. It had old flat tires that were off like an Explorer with rusty rims, and I was like, and they all mismatched sizes. So I bought some wheels and tires, put them on there. The wheel lug pattern, even though these are actually wheel bolts, it's the same as a Ford. So like, yeah, well, same as that car, actually. So readily available. My goal from the beginning, anyway, yeah, so I bought the wheels and tires. The other reason is I like to buy wheels and tires. I'm an idiot sometimes. But Anyway, so the way that the truck looks in that photograph is the way I want it to look when I'm done. So I don't want to, do any body work, repair any dents, I want to retain the spare tire well, and I'm going to put, some sort of spare tire in it, just because I like the way it looks. Yeah, so that's been my goal for it. And also to not get it right, but get it running. So that's the other philosophy. What is the most reasonably priced and convenient way to get it on the road again? The old engine wasn't an option. It's frozen up. And I also knew that I wanted something this truck could drive on the highway. Well, there's project creep in my mind and not. So phase one was box the frame, mount some engine mounts, put that Corvette motor in it with some sort of automatic GM transmission behind it. The Ford 8.8 rear end out of a Ranger is within ½ inch of the proper width, and it's plenty strong for anything you need to do, and it's the same bolt pattern, so my wheels that I've purchased will work with it. On the front, they do offer a front disc brake conversion for these trucks / cars, Dodge era. So I was planning on doing that and doing some interior work, but basically just trying to put, brakes on it. Let's get it on the road. Okay. That has been my goal from the beginning. But, and it's a big but, the further I get into it, as so happens with projects like these, the more I'm questioning how little I can get away with doing. For instance, the front steering and suspension. These U-bolts are 90 years old. I don't really trust them. These springs, these shackles, they can all be rebuilt, but also they were made for way less horsepower and way less speed. Do I trust them? The answer is no, I don't trust them, and I would prefer to redo kind of the front steering. The same goes with the back, really. You can buy these parts, they are rebuildable, but this is 90-year-old technology, and if I put a Ford 8.8, and let's say I'm conservative, 200, 250 horsepower, well, that's 4 times the amount that this whole system was designed for. So then, as it is, I'm still going to need to weld in some shock perches, shock mounts, because the shocks that came with this are a valve style that we're not reusing them. Let's just put it that way. 90-year-old technology. Well, they're in these boxes, or I would pull one out and show it to you, but very interesting, but not what I'm going to use. So, and also for the front, it was basically a box that was mounted here, these 2 holes are, with an arm that went out, that, mounted above here, and it was valved so that, it was a shock, but it was just a weird style. So I'm not going to use it. Anyway, So that's one thing. How far do I go? Okay, and if I'm redoing this stuff, then I start thinking about my engine choices. I have that Corvette 350 that I rebuilt. I have it. I know, you've told me 50 million times I should put a Dodge engine in it, and I agree, 100%. Do you have a Dodge engine laying around anywhere, that you just want to get rid of? No, probably not. That means I got to go out and buy one and a transmission. And then I have choices. Do I put a 318 in it? Do I put a 360 in it? Do I put a 440 in it? Or do I go modern? Do I put like a Gen 1 to Gen 3 Hemi in it? It's going to have an automatic transmission. Couple of reasons. One, I want my wife to be able to drive this. She does drive stick. But two, I want it to be comfortable driving, let's say, in parades or in traffic or just whatever. Very easy. Gas, brake, easy peasy. That's what I want. I'm not putting a manual transmission in it. What else? Oh yeah, so engine choices. Indecision man. I don't know. Well, I can't, the engine mounts and all of those things and fitment, I need to have that in the frame before I, know how everything else is gonna go out. So anyway, there's that. Another thing, and I'm sorry for overloading you here, but every time I start working on this, these are the thoughts that are in my head, and I need to make some decisions. So you can see here, this gap, that needs to be closed up a little bit so this door is safe. It's not grabbing on by much there. You can see that gap. You can even see light through it. This back of the cab, so rust has kind of swelled this. You can see it move and pulled it back. It attaches right here with there's a little L bracket here that attaches, but it's kind of swelled back this way a little bit. You can see the rust isn't as bad on this side. Let me get my light so you can see what I'm talking about. Apologize if this is long, but this is the process. So you can see the rust isn't as bad on this side, but then you get over to this side and it's really bad. You can see down there, so you can see that L bracket back there. But on this one, see if I can, you can see the movement. And also this structural part is like the sheet metal's pushing down. It's kind of bent over it. These two things here, there's one over here too, are the only two things really supporting this cab from the floor. So the first wreck I get into, God forbid, this whole cab is probably just going to fall off the truck. On the front, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's really just the cab corners, which in the back, which is pretty normal. Again, my goal is to keep the outside of the truck looking the same, but I need to reinforce that. I need to fix that, which makes me think I need to take the cab off the truck. Now, there's a philosophy out there that says once you take the cab off the truck, the project will never get done. Now, we don't want to speak that into our project, but there's a little bit of truth to it. Once you take the cab off, you're in it deeper. And yeah, but my commitment level to this truck's pretty high. This isn't something that is going to be done in a year. You know, if it was all I was working on, okay, yeah, sure. But it's not. I got lots of other stuff I'm doing. You know, another thing that I need to do is this firewall. There's really nothing supporting it. There's a floor that goes in here, but I need to come in on the back side and reinforce that. And then what I was going to tackle this week was things like this. So you can see, let me get light again. See that stress crack right there? Whoops. You getting a little tipsy? Did you have too much to drink this morning? Okay, right here. There's where the steering was mounted. You can see stress crack here and here. See those? Those need to be welded up. In that other door frame, there's other stress cracks like that. I was going to start working on stress cracks. There's also stuff like this. So my plan here would be to just drill a hole here to stop the crack, and then, you know, bend this up and just tack weld this, grind it a little bit. As you can see, as a farm truck, this has been done before. Well, this is part of the character of the truck. I'm not changing that. So I feel like if I'm working on these, I can kind of duplicate that and maintain the feel of the truck. So not worried about that. I just really want to be able to fix some welds. But if you look at this, it's kind of a panel here. Well, the bottom of it is all rusty. You know, I don't care. You know, I'm not restoring the truck, but also anytime you have a stress crack, well, it's probably going to just keep breaking. So if I can drill a little hole here and tack that up, you know, just do some things structurally to make the truck safe and not sound like a tin can rattling down the highway. So, so then if I have the cab off, I may as well take the steps off, and then I may as well take the box off, because then I can flip it up. I can rust proof underneath it. There's a little, you know, there's a rust hole here, which I'm not going to fix, but I can kind of reinforce the front of the box where it bows out. On the tailgate, I'm going to keep it, but you can see, I mean, it's not great, but it's good enough. So at some point, the farmer goober welded some just a pipe here so that this would pivot, but on this side, I don't know what all that is. So I would want to cut this off, weld another piece of pipe there for that to slide in, and then I have my tailgate. That's kind of the direction I'm going with this. So, yeah. So, as you can see, my initial, hey, let's just get this thing running and driving, turns into my mind like, I don't know if that's good enough. So again, I want to repeat, I want to keep the old farm look of the truck. It's earned all of this stuff, you know? It's earned it. I love it. And also, I won't worry about driving it. You know, obviously, why would you? It'll just be fun. And also, a truck that looks like this, you know, it attracts some attention. It's fun. People are like, wow. I'm like, wow, when I first saw it. So, the front grille, these are like 10 grand. If you can find one, or 15 grand, if you can find one in perfect condition. But being as it's not in perfect condition, I love it. It's got so much character. I've got the little piece that goes in the bottom here for the crank. So I plan on permanently affixing that, maybe kind of straightening this more toward the middle, reinforcing it so it doesn't come out of the truck or whatever, but maintaining that, you know, whatever cow it hit type of look. So, excuse me. Anyway, so I moved the truck over here, and then I've been standing here for, feels like 2 hours, trying to decide, do I take the cab off? If I do that, then I need to make something for it to sit on so I can work on it and keep it straight. And then you got disassembly. You know, a lot of this hardware I'm just gonna have to grind off because it's just rusted. It's just completely rusted. So if I did that, it would make mounting an engine and transmission, doing the suspension, running brake lines, fuel lines, figuring out where my gas tank's gonna go, hanging that, all of that would be much easier with everything off the frame, and then I can work on each thing, you know, get the cab into shape, put it back on the frame, and then I could also, you know, wire wheel and put some black frame paint on there. Again, I'm not restoring it, just let's keep it going down the road for a while longer. So, still haven't made up my mind. I need to though, or I could just start repairing some of the weld things and think about it. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. I don't know. What do you think? I always hate asking what other people think because it's not their project, it's mine, but maybe I'm just too far in the weeds in my mind on it. If I use a different engine and transmission, that's more expense. Front suspension, more expense. Rear suspension, more expense. It's okay, but more expense also means more time because I'm having to buy things as I go and do it. And then I end up with a 5-year build. I really didn't want that. But maybe that's what I should do. I don't know. I think maybe I'll start messing around with these little welding crack projects, doing a little grinding and drilling and welding on those while I think about it. And then go from there. Okay, thanks for listening. Oh, you weren't listening? Okay, well, thanks for not telling me you weren't listening while I was talking. I appreciate that. Okay, let's get to work. Well, take a look at how far we've gotten. I don't know if you remember what it looked like before, but where's my light? Always put away your tools, boys and girls, so you won't trip over them like Uncle Eric is doing. So you can see it looks like there's cracks there, but that's just where the weld is not ground all the way flat. Same here, same there. It looks like there's a crack there, but that is not. That is just where the weld is, there's just a little, after I ground it down, there's just a little bit of a deal there. Now, on this side, I'm not quite done. It was, if you remember, it was not, whoops, it was not attached. Basically from back here all the way to here, it was rusted out. So I welded in some rod behind it, and I've just been working it slowly, and I'll fill these little cavities here. And then I still have to, I may put a little piece of sheet metal behind this and just tack it, you know, and then fill and grind. Keep in mind, I'm not doing anything to perfection. What I'm doing is stop the cracks from cracking more. Once the truck is on the road and driving, we don't want things coming apart. 2, make it stronger, structurally sound. And 3, the third thing is to make it look good. It's really not the thing, because if you remember, we've got old farmer Jim or Lars, or I think he was German, you know, whatever, Heimlich, no, that's a maneuver, it's the Heinrich. Anyway, he repaired this truck over the years that it was on the farm, hauling hay and pulling trailers and, you know, taking feed from the mill to the farm and all of that kind of thing. So all of my repairs are in keeping with that. So I want my repairs to also kind of be a farm repair. I don't want it to look too good. I don't want it to stand out like, oh, that repair was done later. Not that any of my repairs are going to look good. I'm just saying I'm not spending that extra time you might spend before you get out the body filler and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, because there's no body filler. We'll do the welds, we'll grind them pretty good, and then we'll spritz some paint on them to keep them from rusting and move on to the next one. That's what this is all about. As long as I have a solid truck and a solid platform, appearances, actually, it's almost better if it's not perfect. So in that way, it's a little freeing, to tell you the truth. So I'm gonna work a little bit more on this. I have to kind of skip around. It's good to have if you're working cracks like this, it's good to have a bunch that you're doing, because you don't want to build up too much heat in that thin metal. So you pop a few on, move to the next one, pop a few on, move to the next one, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to start working on that, and then let's see what we have here. Thought I saw, well, I don't really. Maybe I don't have a crack on this side. This whole back of the cab is a whole different story. But definitely those cracks were the steering wheel mounts, and then the cracks in that area there. I'm trying to figure out what this little fella is. I'm gonna pick at it a little bit. It feels like a little more than just You know, like you might think, oh, that's Bondo cracking off. I do not believe that's what that is. I think that's a stress crack. So I'm gonna have to deal with that too. And unfortunately, it's in a super noticeable area. But again, not a big deal. We'll kind of drill a hole there at the base of the crack. And then we'll do some grinding, see what we see. And then thankfully I can push this window out. It's such a super cool thing. This is the air conditioning unit. Isn't that neat? That is so cool. There's another crank. Well, it's not hooked up. Oh, it's not a crank, it's a handle. That handle pushes down for the upper vent here. So I can kind of work with that and have the window a little bit more out of the way. So we'll see how that goes. And I've got on my mind this firewall, but I may need to buy some steel, though I do have some square tubing. Maybe I could run it from there to there on the inside. Maybe build a small frame. When I do brakes, I may use a Willwood style pedal where the master cylinder is inside the cab. It's not outside. It'll give me more room out here and also not have that sticking out. If I can keep it all, there's a lot of room up under here. So, that's just I'm just thinking about it ahead. So, anyway, that's the updates. I'm going to keep on zip zapping away, and yeah, I'll show you my not so handy work when I get done. Right, forgot my flashlight. Just gonna show you just really quick, interrupt my work here just to kind of give you another idea of what I'm dealing with. So I started welding on that crack there, but this is where the steering wheel was mounted, or the steering column, and you can see, look how that bad that is. I mean, it is spider web cracked everywhere, all the way up into this fake, door. I was hoping it wasn't, so I could leave this, but it is what it is. We'll just spritz a little paint on it. This crack isn't quite so bad down here. I'm gonna weld all those and grind them down before I move on. So really, what I'm looking at is finishing up these cracks, a little bit on the hood over there, or not on the hood, on the front fender. And other than that, I'm really not seeing any. Well, okay, I forgot about by the window. We just talked about it, and then my brain is like, we don't need that information. Let me get back to work before I forget what I'm doing. I just thought you might want to see it. Okay. Well, I think I pretty much got it, you know, farmer level, little farmer level action. I still have a little bit left to do inside the cab on those cracks because I finished it and then realized I missed a whole crack, but I've got to put a little piece of sheet metal behind it because that dash metal is so thin. It once it pops through once, it's very difficult to walk it back and keep it from popping through again. So, yeah, I burned my finger. So, put a Band-Aid on it. Yeah. What's that? Sure. Yeah, I was totally wearing gloves at the time. 2,000 degree ember just landed on my fingers. I was welding and weird. Didn't even damage the glove. It just went right. Yeah. So yeah, definitely was wearing gloves after that. Okay. I'm going to leave this mess here because we're coming back to it. I want you to be thinking about what I should do here. I've got an idea or two percolating. Do I take the cab off? Do I risk it? What motor do I put in it? I don't know. You know, I just worry that the further it goes apart, will it ever go back together again? I guess it will. I guess it will. I'm just impatient. I just want to be driving it right now. But we're gonna pivot because this episode is all about dust, Dusty, and the Dustang. So well, let me take this stuff off and meet me over by the car, and I'll just kind of explain. It's another effort to get this thing running properly and fixing what maybe I broke. So. Okay. Oh, dang it, I did it again. Okie dokie then. So maybe okay is just, you know, I mean, things are okay. We want them to be okay. So let's update on what we just did on the Dustang. Change the oil. There was definitely gas in the oil. Change the filter. Clean the plugs. The second set of plugs. The first set still on the table here. And took apart the brand new Holley 2-barrel carburetor. So, a couple of things. I believe when too much fuel pressure ran in there, it messed with the needle and seat here with the fuel coming in, because I manipulated the float. So as you know, as fuel's fed into here, it is metered, or essentially as the bowl fills up, when this reaches a certain point, which you set right here, it stops the flow of fuel. And these will generally hold maybe up to 10 pounds, you know, of pressure. Well, we were making 15, 16 pounds, and it was jumping up and down. And so when I took this off and blew through it, and I was raising this float manually, it was like it was stuck open. I think it damaged itself, not permanently. I was able to get it functioning again. Now when I blow through it, see, when I lift the float, it cuts off the flow of air, as it will do with the fuel. So I got that freed up. I'm hopeful that with the lower fuel pressure, this will work properly. The second thing is I'm worried. I blew out the power valve, and I can't see. This is the power valve, by the way. So, I don't know how deep in the weeds you want to get here, but the jets, basically under throttle, the fuel, it comes through the jets and it runs through these passages right here. Okay, there are carburetor guys that'll explain this better. But the power valve, when you get on the throttle really hard, the vacuum pulls the diaphragm, which allows fuel to come in, and there are these little holes on the side. They also run through this passage to feed the Venturi with fuel. So it's pumping in extra fuel. Well, this carburetor's just been dumping fuel in there, and I'm wondering if I blew out the power valve and it's just like basically fuel's just running through it. It's all vacuum operated, so fuel just is being sucked into the Venturi, down the throat. It's not running. So that's my theory. I don't know. I can't really see the diaphragm well enough to be able to verify. But let me I need light. I got old man eyes. I think I did. There's a little bit of wrinkling in there that's not in this one. So this is a 5.0. I've got a 4.5 in here. What was I going to say? And I've got a 3.5, and I believe that is an indication of how much vacuum it takes to open this. I'm going to just leave it at the 5 for now. I'm just taking another look at this. Okay. Can you remember which one was which? I got to look at them. One's brand new, and the other one's also brand new, but it's already been in. Okay, so that's this one. I can see the scoring. I was like, I'm holding them both in my hands, and I'm like, well, shoot. But I can see this one's got scoring on it from being screwed in. So that's the old one. This is the new one. It also has a little gasket right here. Again, this gasket's new, but let's just seat this with its own gasket. How about we do that? That seems to make sense, right? So we're just going to screw that new power valve in there. Oops. Oh, dang it. It has a like a lip that it sits on, and it came off. So let me screw this in upside down so it'll thread in without doing that. Okay, so there's that. Let me tighten that down real quick with my fancy power valve tightening tool. Okay, that'll hold a seal. And then I've got the jets. Part of me thought of making these jets smaller. I think these are what were they? 76? Anyway. I took a picture of it. It's written on the side of them, but I think I'm just going to leave it the way Holly made it. The other thing is I needed this kit because if you notice this old gasket, it's cut here. So I'm going to put a new gasket on that. So all of this is an effort to get this to run. So I've got new oil. I've got the fuel pressure regulator set up. It's on its lowest pressure setting. I'm put a new power valve in, put a new gasket on, make sure the needle and seat are working, the float's working, it is. Put it back together, cross our fingers. So I'm up to here. I'll just tell you, no offense, Dustang. It's, you know, my wife asked me a couple days ago, do you think the Dustang is a she? And I was like, well, I guess I never really thought about it. Maybe. Why do you ask? And she said, well, you know, because it's fighting you. It's playing dirty. It's, you know, you repair one thing and then it makes another thing break, so you replace that thing and then you have to go back after you realize the first thing caused the second thing to break, and then you're, you know, she's playing dirty. So I don't know. My wife said that. I didn't say that, you know, but girls fight different than boys. We all know that. So I have daughters. I know how it works. I hear it through the walls of my house happening. So, okay. I'm going to button all this together. Let me pull this old gasket off, grab a new one out of this bin. I decided to get a whole kit because I have a four-barrel Holley carburetor over there that came off of the Sport Fury. It's got vacuum secondaries and all of that. And I thought, yeah, maybe I'll maybe I'll rebuild it, because it too was just blah. It was just dumping fuel in and running super rich. And so, okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna set this up here like this. Let's see, should I put another? Sure, why not? This looks good, but let me just go ahead and put another gasket on there, okay? Let's just not play around with it. How about that? All right. Put the new gasket's on. Okay, that's on. So these Holley carburetors have kind of pins that it will rest on, but obviously it's not going to cooperate and stay on there. So now I have to have 5 hands. I'll put the bowl on too at the same time. You know, that's the way it wants to be. What am I going to say about it? Nothing. Nothing at all. Just make sure all the holes are accounted for. So we'll put this on here as well. And then we'll slide a couple of these bolts in. About them apples. Come on, fella. What are you doing? Okay, so you're going to be that way. Fine. There we go. Sometimes the gasket wants to, you know, get in the way. Do what gaskets do. All right, so let's spin these on gently, and we'll spin these other 2 on also gently. Don't need to like really torque these down a ton, you know. It's gasketed. You just need to torque it down enough so that it's snug and it seals. I'm just doing this by hand for now. Then I'll grab a tool. Oops. You generally don't have to worry about getting too much torque with one of these because it's basically, you don't have much leverage. So you can, I don't know how much torque, like what the number is, but let's see. Okay, that's probably pretty good. That's probably pretty good. Yep. Yep. Good to go, good to go. Oh. Well, I won't lie. I'm a little nervous because I want it to work. So let me open the garage door, put the fan on, and am I forgetting anything? I don't think so, but I am gonna put this little fella on here because I like to be up under the hood when I'm starting it. Okay. Okay. Good. We're gonna have to turn this over a little bit because there's no fuel in the bowl. Maybe I dump a little tiny bit in there still to get her started. What? Yeah, of course. This is an approved Kirkland you know, gas fuel receptacle. You didn't know they made them, did you? I'm definitely not making a mess here. Let's dry that up. Just hush, okay? You know? Okay, let's see. We've got a little bit left in this. Whoops. Okay. All right, where's my light? I need my light. See if I got any fuel squirting in here. All right, see what we got here. Well, what's happening? Well, you didn't actually get to see it, I don't think, because, well, there was a technical failure. You fell asleep. You fell asleep right in the middle and you missed it. So, I'll recap for you. The carburetor, working perfectly. You can even see, if I have my new favorite light, you can see in the sight glass, I don't know if you can, the fuel level. It's running about halfway. I could push it down a little bit more than that. As long as it's not more than halfway, we'll be fine in the bowl. No leaks. It's not dumping fuel down anymore. That's the good news. The bad news is it won't stay running. It runs really rough. It vibrates. It's giving off some symptoms. I'm getting vapors coming out of, really it's a vent cap, essentially. But really, okay, so I'll just tell you, here's a PCV valve, positive crankcase ventilation. It goes right here. I just have it taken out temporarily because I was testing things. The vacuum from the engine draws air in through this. Well, that vent is supposed to suck air into the crankcase and it comes back out here. So there's a constant circulation and release of crankcase pressure, ventilation. So I'm like, that's just not right. Also, I was getting coolant pushing out of the coolant hose. That's not right. So I took this PCV valve out, and then it would stay running, but it was really rough. And of course, if I would plug this, it would immediately die. It's giving all the signs of way too much pressure inside the engine. It's just building too much. It's not releasing out. It's trying to release out of all these other places. This is my, Dr. Eric diagnosis without having dived into it quite yet. So, taking this out helps relieve the pressure, but I'm getting vapors out of there, and it's still running rough. So, this is what I think. Well, I turned the lights out back here because I shut the fan off and turned the lights out because, end of day. I was kind of getting ready to close up. But the exhaust here, I cleaned the floor. This was covered in just black coming out of the pipe. Also, I picked up a little acorn and another little nut that had blown out of it. See where I'm going with this? It's possible I have a partial or mostly restriction in my exhaust system somewhere because some critter made a home in there and stuffed all their food in their fridge and in their pantry, and the pantry happens to be the exhaust pipe. This is my theory. So what I am going to do next we meet is disconnect the exhaust pipe. I'll have to put this up on the lift. I can kind of reach down there for this side. Disconnect the exhaust pipe from the exhaust manifold. So I'll be running open manifolds, super loud. But if I disconnect that and drop it, and then my engine runs fine and is happy and is like, oh, I can run free and whatever again, I'll know my problem is in the exhaust system and it's probably full of stuff. So it's a good news, bad news. We figured out the fueling system. It's working properly. We've got fresh oil and plugs in there and wires. Everything is doing the things it's supposed to do, but we have another issue. So, yeah, we'll tackle that next, and that would be great news, actually, if it ran wonderful after that, because we can unclog an exhaust somehow. I don't know. We'll see. Well, I thought you were here, but you weren't. I guess I wasn't paying attention close enough. I did crank the motor up, and it has a very bad surge. It ran better with the exhaust disconnected, but honestly, not great. Not great with the surging. So, I'll fish that out later. So I pulled the plugs. They were all dampish. Now they weren't soaking wet like they have been beforehand, but they were very dampish, too much dampish. That's a technical term. Just look it up. Look it up. It's not wet. It's wet. It's not soaked, but it's not dry like it should be. So I pulled all the plugs, cleaned them up. I decided to go in a little different direction. I think if they're still dampish and the carburetor is now working properly, it's not shooting fuel in there when it shouldn't, it's doing what it's supposed to do. I still have a bad lope and wet plugs. So it can be a couple of things. It can be a vacuum leak, which I've got new gaskets everywhere. And really, there are no vacuum, this isn't one of those old cars that has a gazillion vacuum lines. I've got the PCV running into the spacer. I've got the vacuum advance running from the distributor, and that's it. So other than like vacuum leaks at the base of the carburetor, which isn't happening. I don't have them. So it kind of is acting that way, but I've eliminated that as a possibility. We've got good ventilation in the crankcase, new cap, new PCV valve, and no exhaust restriction. So the next thing that I'm going to do, it is running. It's just not, it's not running well. So I think the next thing, because of the wet, dampish plugs, I'm going to change the jet size on this carburetor. So this engine has not been modified at all, as we've discussed previously. I believe, to recap, with the fuel pressure problems, we blew out the power valve. We probably did it in the stock rebuilt carburetor, which is why that was dumping fuel, and then why this was dumping fuel. Well, we've repaired that. That's not an issue. We've got it regulated, it's happy, everything's running well. But now I've got a 500 CFM carburetor on here, which is supposed to run with this motor, but the jets are a 73. And I think like a stock is, I don't know, if I remember right, 37, between 30 and 50. I'm gonna drop it down, I guess what I would consider 10 sizes, which would be from a 73 to a 63, which is closer to the 57 mark, and see if that makes any difference. So that's the next thing that I'm going to do, but I have them on order and they won't be here till next week. So yeah, I know this hasn't been a super accomplished week, but you know, not all weeks are going to be that way. We're coming up on the holiday season, a lot of other things going on, but still trying to plug away in the shop on these projects. So the car's not going to win. The Dustang, whatever, not going to win. We're going to win. So it's just a matter of taking one thing at a time. We've got fuel, probably too much. We've got spark, probably just enough. We've got air movement, good, excellent. And the exhaust is going out the back. So oil is in the oil place, water is in the water place. I feel like we're on track. So yeah, on that bombshell, let's sit down for a second. For not getting much done, it's been a really long week. So I say that with tongue in cheek because my tongue is always in my cheek. So I always say things tongue in cheek. Obviously, I don't know what that saying means. All right, yeah, so let's go sit down for a second. Well, thanks for hanging out with me this week. I know it's been kind of a weird one. I didn't accomplish anything meaningful on the Dustang other than, well, okay, that's not true. We got the fuel system working properly, but it still needs some tweaking, I believe, to get the engine running right. We verified that there's no obstructions in the exhaust. Making our way one day at a time, or one problem solving at a time. On Dusty, the Dodge. Dusty the Dodge. Yeah, we just talked about what to do. Did a little welding. Not much of anything, but just some decisions to make. I'm at the bottom of the barrel when I ask for your opinion. I don't like asking for people's opinion on my project, you know? But I just opened myself up. So we already talked about it. My plan was to put the Corvette motor in it. I don't know. And then how far do I tear it down? Do I take the cab and box off and just build it up from there? And if I do, what kind of buildup am I doing? You know, I don't have the budget for a high dollar build, but I want something that's, you know, safe for my family and for me to drive. I don't know. Whatever. So just talking through some of those things. Sometimes it feels like the longest part of the project is deciding how to proceed. And sometimes you just have to proceed, which is what we did on the welding and stuff, but we got to figure it out. So it's kind of getting into the end of the year holiday season, so there'll probably be a little bit less accomplished in these next couple of months going forward, but we'll always do something. We're in the shop, we're working. Yeah, come back next week and hang out with me. I'm running low on coffee, so if you could just kind of maybe pick some up at the store on your way, that would be nice. And, you know, just do your part. That's all I'm saying. Oh, all right. Well, see you next week. Thanks for hanging out. Once again, love it. Have such a good time. You're always encouraging and upbuilding to what's going on in the shop. So it's fun to have you around. See you next week.